Hey everybody, this is your boy, the St. Turner One, St. Dez, and this is my attempt to do a Total Extreme Wrestling 2020 merge with Fire Pro Wrestling World. And I'm hoping that this is going to be a successful attempt to do so, because I try to do it with what they call the C verse or the Cornell verse section of Total Extreme Wrestling 2016. And right as I was getting deep into trying to get that to go ahead and to work, that's when I actually was faced with, do I want to, dive deep into 2020? And I just pretty much, long story short, I cut it short and I never went through with it. So I did like maybe one episode as far as a intro, and then I actually did like maybe 2 or 3 cards. And right as the end of the month was getting ready to come up in that particular, I guess you would say, attempt, then that's when we came up with nothing. So this is where I'm at. Right now, I'm going to try to attempt to do a run through with Big Japan Pro Wrestling. And if you're not familiar with Big Japan Pro Wrestling, don't worry, I'm not either. So there's going to be people that will see this and they're going to comment and say that this is not truly how that particular organization is ran, and I understand that. But I'm actually thinking about trying to mold this into my own creation. I am going to try my best to stay within the confines of how it's set up as a organization at the moment, and as we're going to see how the product setup is for this organization and for this promotion, we're going to see where it's at and where it's trying to get to, and we're going to go from there. So here we go. So as you can see, we're right here in the office section of TAW 2020, and you see that we have, at the moment, I am the head booker. I am not the owner. So what I've done, I actually just sim. This is what I call a slow grind or slow growth sim, and I just pretty much had my user player to just be unemployed until there was an opening with one of the organizations. And the very first organization that had an opening was Big Japan Pro Wrestling, and it was due to a death to one of their main owners, and it has shook the entire balance of the entire company. So this is where we're at. There's going to probably be people that is not in this organization that normally would have been, that is actually bigger than the organization is, currently in real life. So to just kind of give you an overview of what's going on, what you see is not fully where we at as of today. So this is what I have done. I have got it all the way up till as of now. So I'm going to go into the pre-booking and I'm going to show you the calendar. So we are right now getting ready to have our very first show in June. And from there, if you're not familiar with the Big Japan Pro Wrestling setup or the BJW setup, they do more tours than they do actual shows. And I don't truly know how I'm going to continue to go forward from here. But as of right now, I'm going to continue this tour setup that they do, and I'm going to learn more about it, in days to come. But right now, they in a tour setup, and it's showing how all of that is. And I thought that the best way to actually run the company is to keep this set up and go forward. So this is going to be a clean slate in the BJW June. So now, from there, I'm going to kind of just walk through the company itself and let you see where we at. So we need to have 46 active wrestlers on our roster. keep him being looked at as being amateur. And we at the moment have 55. During the time right before I got to this point, I seen that Samoa Joe was getting ready to be cut loose from WWE, and they were not going to renew his contract. So I was like, what better way to kind of get a big name to come in that I have some familiarity with is to try to sign Samoa Joe and see if he'll actually sign with us. And I was like, oh, he probably won't come. And sure enough, he actually did sign with us. And I got him on like a $1,600 a month or per show contract, which is a handshake contract. So as of right now, we got Samoa Joe that's going to come in and do some wrestling for us. But I want to say that it's like a 25 days before his actual contract is going to be, open to us. Throughout this process, I had to sim some shows to get here, and we got Gran Guerrero, and he have had some morale issues, and we could go into it a little bit later to show what was going on, but he's had some issues. He's kind of upset right now. So that's one of the things that we got to deal with as we go forward. And St. Dez is myself, and I am a user character, and I'm not going to lie, I am what they call OP or overpowered in this game. But if you have ever played TEW, then you know no matter how well that you have a wrestler overpowered, it's not going to matter in the long run because the game is so detailed and in-depth and so open-ended, as there's truly no end to the game, that it doesn't matter how overpowering your characters are, because it's just too many things that can happen. So, I could be overpowered right now, and then I could just wind up getting to the age of having to retire or something. This is so much like a real life setup that there's anything can just happen. So, even though my character is overpowered, don't worry about it. That's like the only person that I've altered in any way. So if you see any other stats that's been changed or whatever, or you don't think it's like normal, I did not do it myself. It was part of the mod that I actually got, or it was just part of progression or regression as far as the game's concerned. So as I said, we are now in the second week of June 2022, and it showed our last show. And I will tell you, please understand, I am a Black American / African American, or whatever you want to call American, and I am from the South. I am in the Tennessee area, so not only will you hear some very mispronunciations of some of these people's name, there will be this time I'm going to be like, that's the name of this particular event or whatever, and as I learn what these events are called or what these people names are called, I will pronounce them correctly. But as of right now, if you hear me mispronounce a wrestler's name or a team's name, it's not, don't take it as an offense. It's just that I truly have never even heard the name before. I don't even know how to speak it well, because I'm not a person who can say, oh yes, I have looked at a lot of New Japan Pro Wrestling or like Ice Ribbon or Stardom or something like that. So I'm going to be extremely brand new to this. And it was more of the fact that it was, based on a deathmatch setup than I have a love for Japanese wrestling. But I'm beginning to want to, dive more into that. So maybe this will be a long journey that all of us could go into, and maybe we can change that perception. So from here, we see that the season finale is going to be set for literally like a month from now. And I didn't even know this until as we speak. So as I said, I am learning stuff as we speak right now. And I'm seeing that our season finale is going to be scheduled for Saturday, the second week in July. And it's the BJW Ryogokunatan. Yes, that right there. And once I figure out how to pronounce that correctly, I'm going to. But that is supposed to be our season finale. And once we do that, then I guess we'll start even more brand new storylines. But in BJW, you really don't have to have storylines. But I think that I actually did create one to kind of continue this. So let's see where we at. One of the things that I did do, and one of the things that I have noticed with Big Japan Pro Wrestling is they have a hardcore division. They have what they call strong style or a strong division, which is more of your heavyweights. And then they have the junior division, which is pretty much in like American terms, it would be kind of like high flyers or your cruiserweights, or if it's kind of like in Mexico, it's going to be kind of like your lucha libre style wrestlers, but it's more of a strong style in it, but it's going to be more high flying in that particular division. So instead of me struggling to try to keep everybody, in the same division, I said I'm going to put them in a brand split, and that way I can actually keep a hold on who is where, who's doing what, and maybe I can actually create the cards better that way, because I'm going to have 3 different brands. And one of the first goals that I'm thinking about doing is maybe long run, I'm going to have 3 different type of shows. So as we walk through this process, maybe I can have 3 shows. One that's going to be hardcore, one that's going to be strong or heavyweight style, and the other one is going to be kind of like a junior style. And then during pay-per-views, we can have all 3 brands compete, in as far as in one pay-per-view or whatever. So there's where what I'm telling you. See, we have the hardcore, and pretty much we have the strong, and then we have the junior. So we have pretty much who is the owner right now, as it says, Elijah Tasaka. He is pretty much the CEO of BJW at the moment. Then we got Ryuji Ito and the bodyguard. They are going to be the announcers and the color commentators for the hardcore style. And I'm going to continue to have Elijah Tasaka, Samoa Joe, once he becomes a member of, BJW, and myself. And we're going to be the announcers for the strong division or the strong brand. And then we're going to have in the junior division, we're going to have Elijah Tasaka, Tajiri, which a lot of you may know is Tajiri, and then Kenta Kobashi. We're going to have those 3 be part of the announcing team in the junior division. And that way they are the size, and it should help relate more to the crowds. And that's what I'm hoping the end result's going to be. And if you see some of the people that is not actually branded, then that means that they're either like a referee or they are pretty much an announcer or something like that. So anyone else, I try my best to have some type of branding put to them. So now, excuse me, we won't get into chemistry until we actually get through one of our first shows. But right now, we're going to have the creative. So if you ever known anything about TEW, what it actually do is it tries to break down everybody that is within that particular company that you're running. So they'll tell you who should be like the outstanding or the major stars of your company, who's like the next big thing as far as wrestling in general, or the next big thing within your company, who's like the hot prospects. It's kind of like they usually your younger wrestlers that if you continue to support them, then they will be a big help to your company in the long run. It's like other things that you'll see, kind of like the talk and the showstoppers, ring generals. These things is kind of like they great on the mic or they great in-ring performers. And your ring generals are the ones that if you have that one wrestler that would wrestle like myself and couldn't even step through the ropes without tripping, a range general would be able to carry a match in such a way that it makes it seem like I should be a superstar. And the better your range generals are, the better the match is going to look in the long-term effects. That's why as you'll see in some of the descriptions about what these particular wrestlers are, a ring general is one of my favorites because I look at Eddie Guerrero. He was one of the best at it because no matter who, and Bret Hart was one of the best at it. It's like in the ring, they did not have to be a world champion, but you knew that if you wrestled them, it was going to be a great match. Dolph Ziggler's got that. If you're a WWE fan and you have wondered how in the world is it that Dolph Ziggler continues to have a job in WWE, and almost every time he wrestles, he loses. And one of the reasons is because Dolph Ziggler makes anyone that he goes against look better. You may not like him as a wrestler, and you may think that his style is no good, but he has been able to adapt to anybody that he wrestles, no matter if they're a great big heavyweight or if they're a lucha libre person, kind of like a Rey Mysterio, or if they kind of like a Sheamus or whatever. One of the things that Dolph Ziggler can do is he can have a great match with anyone. So that's what your ring generals are. And whenever I see a ring general in wrestling, I think that they're some of the best workers in the business, and that's what they usually call them, a great worker. Who's hot is going to be who is hot in your promotion at that moment. Who's not is the ones that's kind of like the fans have kind of grown cold on them, and you're going to have to kind of build them up if you want to really put a title on them and stuff. And then the hidden gems, when you see that in TEW, that is basically saying if you were to go out to find more talent for your organization, then these are the people that would probably fit your promotion the best, or would have like a great role in your promotion. So right now, we truly only have one franchise player. And one of the reasons is I myself haven't actually been playing the game. As I said myself, I've been auto booking until we got to this point. So as I said, I'm OP because I got my stats, like I think if it ain't 90, it's like 100 in every area in the game, from Japan to America to India to I'm just OP in the game. So right now I've got like exceptional star presence and charisma. The next big thing, we don't have one, and you'll notice in a lot of TEW you won't have this. So if you ever play TEW and you have someone that is the next big thing, treat them with like what they always say, kid gloves, because that particular person is AKA Brock Lesnar. There was a reason he was called the next big thing, because when he first came into wrestling, they was talking about him being that, and it's been over 20 years now, and the man is like a beast. So whenever you see the next big thing pop up in TEW, know that you got a great prospect or a great wrestler on your hands. So you need to push them to the moon, but do it at the right time. Hot prospects. So now get ready for some of my butchering of the names. So I guess it goes along with the garbage wrestling and the death matches of Big Japan Pro Wrestling. We first this guy Takuya Nomura, and we see that he's going to be a dark horse. Shows like he's a fantastic in-ring performer. Then we got Yuya Aoka, and we see that he's going to be probably a great in-ring performer. Next we have Junta Mayawaka and Mayawaki, and what we see here, he's 24 and got the chance to be a great worker. Then we got Gran Guerrero, and said even though he's 29, usually 28, 29 to me would be on the sign of decline, but they are still saying that they are in the hot prospect area. So probably between 30 to 35 is when you'll see probably some issues coming in, but still said that if he fulfills his in-ring potential, then he's going to be a very, very good wrestler. So right now, we're seeing that Gran Guerrero is probably still going to be a great wrestler if we work with him. And then we have Yuki Ishikawa. Okay. Yuki Ishikawa. So there we go. As I said, I'm butchering the names. So Yuki Ishikawa. To me, I'm going to try to make him like a beast. For some reason, he just had to look like I'm getting ready to whoop your tail. So I'm thinking hard about pushing him to the moon, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So now, that's kind of like what creative is. The figurehead, and you'll see, as I said again, the figurehead is basically, for anyone that loves wrestling, think of John Cena. That's all I'm going to say. Literally, that person is either the ace or is the face that runs the place, as AJ Styles says it. When you think of WWE, or back in the day, if you said WWF, you would have thought firsthand back in what they call the golden era is Hulk Hogan. You know, Hulk Hogan was, if you said wrestling, you Hulk Hogan. If you said NWA / WCW, you would think of Sting and Ric Flair. Those are like the figureheads. Then as it got further up to like the Attitude Era, you think the Stone Cold and The Rock. Not as much as Triple H, even though Triple H was a great wrestler. He wasn't as much of the figurehead because if you really wasn't into wrestling, then you didn't know who this person was. So, you know, he got to do some movies and stuff, but he wasn't a big deal. But if you were to say The Rock or Stone Cold, then everybody knew exactly who he was talking about. That's why, even though Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels was great wrestlers, very seldom would a person relate them to WWE or to WWF, because you kind of think about this as being the people that looks at that particular wrestler and can automatically attach them to that organization, even though they're not wrestling fans. So I guess that's the best way to look at it. It's like if you were to say WWE or WWF in Bret Hart's day, they still would have said Hulk Hogan, even though Hulk Hogan was already in the process of either declining as far as being a major star in WWF, or he was already retired, or he was in WCW. So you kind of see where I'm going. It's like, that's what they truly mean by a figurehead. So your figurehead is the one that everybody's attaching to, even people that's outside of wrestling. And whenever you have a great wrestler that is big enough to be a figurehead, then you actually can make more money because you'll have people buying the merchandise. So you just think of Stone Cold, for instance. There was so many people who had Austin 316 shirts because of it being a cool slogan and a cool way of going about saying this, or smell what the Rockets cooking. People was buying those shirts and stuff, even though they didn't know what they was talking about when it came to wrestling. But it sold merchandise, and it put that particular era on the map. So people would look at wrestling just because you had Stone Cold beating up his boss, and they could care less about the rest of the show. But they wanted to see who's this guy that's supposed to be getting drunk every night whooping his boss. So this is why, you know, that's the figurehead. So in this version of BJW, we have SEMA, and I'm glad it showed more than just myself as being the figurehead, even though I attach this to myself. SEMA, one of the reasons he's not, it's like it shows the reason he could be a figurehead, but it shows all the other reasons why he would not fit it. One of the first things you see is nowhere near enough star quality. So again, great person. Why is he a great person? Right here we see that it's charismatic, just about over enough, meaning if you keep working on him, then everyone, at least in Japan, would know exactly who he is, to be like, oh, okay, I know who that person is. But then his star quality, can he, you know, have his presence out there so the other people can be like, oh, I like what he does. So right now it's saying nowhere close to being enough to do that. Another thing that they're saying about him is maybe too injury prone to be reliable. So you don't want someone to be your figurehead and then they hurt all the time, because every time a person turns on the TV, they're going to want to see that particular person. And if they ain't on TV, then it's like, no. Now, where the would come in for everyone else where it may have not been before is because I'm OP, and this is one of the reasons you don't want to have overpowered person in your organization for this very reason. All of these is saying that I'm way more charismatic, more star quality. I am more of a major star. All of these things automatically just says, SEMA is not qualified for this. Next thing we have Daisuke Tsukamoto. So Daisuke Tsukamoto. So Daisuke Tsukamoto. Yeah, exactly. It's like one of the reasons they was against him is, one, he's over. So if you were to see him in Japan, everybody know who he is. We know that he's a great wrestler. But what's happening? He lacks a whole lot of star quality. We've seen that with SEMA. He's lacking pretty much in his charisma. So he's kind of bland as far as being over with the people. It's kind of like, okay, I know who he is, but I could care less. And a lot of people would have said that about Bret Hart, great wrestler and stuff, but they wouldn't say that he was, charismatic. And then when you look at Shawn Michaels compared to, Bret Hart, a whole lot of people couldn't stand Shawn Michaels, and said, he wasn't as great of a wrestler, but his charisma, like him or hate him, he had that charisma that make you either want to punch him in his mouth or the women to go crazy for him. But again, it's like, what happens? I'm got all the qualities more than him, and then SEMA is a little more charismatic. So SEMA is a better fit as far as charismatic over Daisuke. But again, that's why you wouldn't want to put this person as your figurehead. Now you have Jake Lee. So what's you got again? He's pretty much the same thing as Daisuke. He's over. Everyone knows who he is, but he's pretty much lacking in the same things. And as I said, and he's also injury prone. So one of the things is St. Diaz, he's pretty much being overpowered already makes it hard for anybody else to just be a ace or be the figurehead for, Big Japan right now without that. You don't have to ever have a figurehead in your company, but you make more money if you do. So if you can, if you got a person that is qualified to be one, put them there, but you have to be careful because you could run into the Roman Reigns effect. You like, okay, they fit all of the qualities, and then something happens where they either become injury prone or the crowd turns on them, and then boom, what happens? You basically have the crowd turning on them, and whenever they see that particular wrestler, they turn the TV off, or they don't like the segments that particular wrestler is in. Kind of like what was happening to John Cena when he was being booed out of the arena. That's what you don't want, because then you start losing money. So always be careful when you pick a figurehead. Now, the most important part that I think that is in this version of TEW, which I almost used to look over and didn't even care about before, but now I'm finding out it's extremely important now, is the product. Products is not set up the way they used to be, and I won't go deep into it, but if you have the game, it's going to be your best bet is to figure out how the products are set up now, because it used to be you could kind of edit it up, kind of put what you want as your product and be done with it. But now it's already kind of set for you in certain type of levels, and you either have a core product, which it will always be pretty much who you are as a company, and then what the current product is. So for as long as there's going to be a BJW, the core part of BJW is going to be hardcore evolved. And what that basically means, to kind of sum this up, is think of ECW without all the six in it. And the reason I say it that way, it was more or less when Paul Heyman was running ECW, it wasn't just the sex part, but it was the we're against the world. It's us against the world establishment. So we're going to make sure that we edgy to push the envelope instead of we edgy because we are hardcore. We are real life hard to the core type of wrestlers. And I guess that's the best way to put it. That's why it's like it's not the anti-establishment hardcore. It's just we're going to take wrestling to be more serious. So now, one of the things that you're going to see is when you see how BJW is set up, you're going to see that there's no face and heel divide, meaning there's no good guy, bad guys in here. But if it was to be, right now it's, strictly enforced. But as I said, it's basically, hey, we just going to whoop each other and the best wrestler wins and the crowd's going to like who they like. There is a weight split, as I said. There is a heavyweight and a junior in this. There will be stables, and the reason stables are a big deal in this year's is there's several different levels of stables. Instead of just having a group of people just be on the same side, there is reasons for it, and it can somewhat affect, how wrestling is. And I did click managers to be yes, even though I don't think that it really is a big deal, especially in this particular type of product. But since I have some, I wanted to make sure the managers is in there because of what we're going to change to in the days to come. Now, right in here, it just pretty much letting you know that most companies have the spinal impact not allowed. It's not checked. High risk moves not allowed. That's not checked. Matches should be called in the ring. That's not checked. And matches should be scripted. It's not checked. All of that stuff was just not checked when I got into here. And if you know anything about deathmatch matches, I mean, getting dropped on your neck is probably the least of your worries, as they have beta nail matches. Sometimes I seen like some video talking about, was showing like alligators or crocodiles running after some of the wrestlers. I mean, it's crazy. So yeah, BJW is about it. It's about that strong style. It's about that true, hey, we're about to whip you type of deal. So now, to kind of give a quick run, and I'm not going to talk about all of this here, but one of the things to let you understand why, this is a big deal for me is when it's an event, it's going to be 90% matches, 10% angles, and if it's TV, it's 70% matches and 30% angles. So basically, the fans is expecting to see most of the show to be matches. So if there's 10 segments, meaning 10 pieces in your show, there need to be 9 matches and then one segment to be, your angle. And I mean, if you do not kind of keep close to this, you will get a little warning saying, hey, you're not meeting this requirement. And if you keep pushing through, then it's going to penalize the heck out of you. This here is pretty much, breaking all that down to you, how that works. And it warns you about the wear and tear of the bodies and stuff, and things like you need to have that amount of time and stuff. I'm telling you, follow this if you ever play this game. And if you're not meeting these requirements, you will find out that it's going to hurt you in the end. So trust me, follow this. Now, one of the key reasons I wanted to kind of be ended here so that you understand what's going on is right here. When I got, control of the company and stuff, I see that a change is currently underway to alter the product to the guerrilla warfare. And I have not looked at pro wrestling guerrilla before, but what little I have seen, it seemed like it had some comedy, but extremely fast-paced matches and stuff. I don't know what that's going to mean for what, is entailed for my company, but it's due to complete in 6 months and 3 weeks. Your popularity growth is not going to grow during this time, so I don't even know what's about to happen and how that's going to go. So hopefully we will find out together. So now, got the rosters, the stables, storylines, titles. Pretty much the rosters is a whole lot of people that I don't even know how to pronounce half of their names. So the best way for me to explain this is going to be what I've done and what I will do, and then we'll go forward from there as we start doing the other shows so that we could get deeper into each wrestler. I have already put forth a show, and I have did it all through Fire Pro Wrestling, as I was telling all of you. So Fire Pro Wrestling is a game that will actually show all of the wrestlers, and it's not on the level of a WWE 2K type game. So if you're looking at it for the graphic viewpoint, you're going to be highly disappointed. But if you're looking at it for the type of match styles, the in-depth details that they put in, making sure that you can come up with your own combinations and moves and deathmatch matches and things like that, then this is extremely the game to play. So one of the things is this particular thing is not for young, kids. So I'm letting you know now, if you're looking at this, do not view this, because even though I'm not going to be wanting to cuss throughout my shows and things like that. You will see blood, in the ring and stuff. Even though it's animated blood, it's still blood in general. And then you still will see barbed wire. You will see light bulbs. You will see chairs, tables, exploding landmines. Yeah, that type of stuff. And in case anyone who is hearing me right now thinks that I'm just kind of making this up, just look up a Big Japan Pro Wrestling segment and you'll see that not only am I not making this up, I'm not telling it all. So yeah, it's real, and it's really a true thing. So what I'm gonna, as I was saying, I've came up with the card, and the way we will continue to go forward on how people win and lose in this, you can pick who wins and lose throughout your shows here in TEW, and you always have been able to, or you can allow the road agent to do so. Well, what I'm going to do after this big major show, I'll go back to show you all of the tour shows, unless it's the actual main event, we'll sit there and just kind of work our way up to who wins and lose on that end. But then we'll allow Fire Pro Wrestling to actually pick who is the winner of the main event. So just say, for instance, if the main event is going to be a world title match, we'll have it be a world title match, and if that particular wrestler loses his title in that match, then we'll come back into Fire Pro Wrestling. Back into Total Extreme Wrestling, and we'll say that person lost, and then that's how we will continue a story, or continue to see how the crowd or how everybody view this. So we may wind up with a person being the champion in this, 10 times in the next, 4 months or something. Who knows? We'll just figure it out. But one of the things, and one of the reasons I wanted to do it this way, is I wanted to see how well we could try to keep storylines going by the way Fire Pro Wrestling actually come out with the outcomes of the matches. So whenever it's a major pay-per-view like Danger Zone, or the pretty much season finale that's going on, then I'm going to use Fire Pro Wrestling as the way to actually, I'm going to have all of those matches be Fire Pro Wrestling matches. But if it's just the normal tour days, then what I'm going to do is all the matches that we'll have will be just your normal TEW type match. It might be just a little snippet of, okay, this was what happened, this is the person who won or lost, and this is the result. But past that, we won't go any in-depth part of that. But the main event will always be a Fire Pro Wrestling event. Okay? And I know I've talked a lot through this already. So the main thing to just remember is, when we get ready to go deeper into this, then we'll actually see that the event is here. I'm going to put that card together. I've already have the matches, as I said, done, and from there we'll just show you what's going on. As far as each day, one of the things I will do is I'm going to go back to the main screen, and this is pretty much like a newspaper, or just think of it almost like going into your Chrome or your Firefox or your Edge. Yeah, the Edge. Just going into your web browser in general, and you just wanted to pull up what Total Extreme has got on their website. And this is what we're going to do. And this is going to be kind of like how I'm going to determine if I want to hire people, or we're going to keep up with what's going on in other wrestling organizations. We will figure out if we want to partner up with other wrestling companies, and as we do so, that's how I'm going to bring in new wrestlers or get rid of wrestlers. Another thing is I have, used some people's work, and a lot of people have done some extensive great work on Fire Pro Wrestling World. And once I get their names, I'm going to make sure I put that out there to let you know that these particular people is the ones that I got their artwork from in the game. So what you're seeing is not work that I've done. It's just me being able to stand on their shoulders and try to provide a great show for y'all. So as I said, we're going to go through this. Hopefully everything is going to be something that you want to continue to go and stick with, and we're just going to go from there. So as I said, this is my intro. I've talked a whole lot. I'm going to end now, and from here, hopefully you get to see our very first show in the next coming days. Thank you.